My niece was over there a couple weeks ago with her friend.
Is it a pretty safe place?
I would say, compared to
Don't
what?
tell me now.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Compared to what? You know?
That's what I think. Like everybody wants them to come to different, like their country, like, and
Yeah.
so they're. I'm sure they're gonna do
I've heard
everything.
Southeast Asia is pretty
The Thai
safe.
people are amazing people. They're humble, they're very hospitable, they're generous. Okay, we gotta start.
Yeah, we're starting 15 minutes late.
We do
If
need
I
to
realized
start.
Jeanette wasn't coming, I mean, what you told me.
That's okay.
Anyways, we could have started a
No
while
worries.
ago. At least getting going on our alter ego names and your mantras. We want to hear how you guys did on your homework. So who came up with an alter ego name and who came up with a mantra? I know Jen was stressing. Did you come up with one?
I did, yeah.
Okay, do you want to start? Tell us.
Yeah.
Hey, what? I'm
So
excited.
my alter ego name is Sunshine.
Perfect.
I love that.
And you're wearing your yellow shirt,
Yes.
yellow and green.
I think if my parents were hippies, they probably would have named me Sunshine.
Totally. And your eyes are like sunshine.
And I was reading in my patriarchal blessing, and it says, "You will be a shining light." And so I'm like,
Aw.
That's
So-
so cute.
Does it just sit right with you?
It does, yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then my mantra is I live in the present moment and I'm a shining light. I honor my intentions and accomplish what I have been given time to do.
Nice.
So there are a couple of things about that. I was listening to a story about President Nelson a little while ago, and the thing that impressed me about him is when he's doing something, whatever it is, when he is spending time with his family, he's like 100% of his attention is focused on
Yes.
his family and whatever the activity is. He's not thinking about, doing heart surgery or doing his calling or whatever, like when
Right.
he's with his family's back. And when he's at work and he's doing heart surgery, he's 100% focused
Totally.
on his job.
That's a good way to
And
live.
I feel like sometimes like I'm at a tennis match or something and I'm like on my phone or like planning what I'm supposed to be doing for dinner or where I need to stop or go, and I'm like not living in the moment. And so that's kind of what my goal is this year, is to really focus on living in the moment right now. And then the other thought that I had was, I really feel like God has given me free time to accomplish His work, and I'm figuring out what that is. And so I just really want to be more intentional about figuring out what that is and like accomplishing that. Because I
Nice.
think, if you're not really like, I don't know, doing what you're supposed to do, He'll give you other stuff to keep you busy and, living your life or whatever. But if you're willing to give that time to Him
Right.
and do something
And
better,
he's like, oh, okay.
He's like, okay, here,
Yeah.
I'll give you this time.
Totally.
So,
Totally. And then you're like, wow, what was I doing before?
I know.
right?
What was so important? I don't even remember. Well, doesn't matter. That's awesome. Yay, I'm so happy for you. Good job. Do we have any other homework besides the name and the mantra? Remember?
Let me check.
The 150. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
really fun.
Did you guys like that?
Yeah.
What did you think of that? Were you like,
I was. I just did it this morning, and so it was. I don't know. I wanted to share it with my husband. I'm like, I'm awesome. Look at all
yes! Right? Honey, if you don't think I'm awesome, just check this list out anytime you want to. Refer to number 17, right? That's awesome. Okay, who else? Who's next?
I'll just be completely honest. I was tax woman last week, and
Tax
that's my
woman?
main focus is to
Good
get my taxes
girl.
done. So I did not come up with an alter ego, and but I do have tons of mantras that I say on my. I'm learning to memorize these, but
What's your main one?
I am a hardworking, tenacious, and resourcefully abundant, happy, and healthy leader.
Yes, you do.
So that's one I
Yes.
memorized, but I just came up with a couple more the last couple of months in regards to like being a mother, like coach, and just a feminine woman. So
Nice. Good job.
I don't have those memorized yet, but
Yeah.
close.
I love how that other one just came out.
I know. I've been practicing it for years.
You want to know who I am? This is who I am.
But you know what's interesting about the mantras is that the more you say them, the more they literally like. Back when I came up with that mantra, I was at a Kirk Duncan seminar, and I knew I was always tenacious, and I knew I was hardworking, but the other ones I didn't really feel. But as I said it, I truly believe that's what I am now.
Good.
So
Good. You grew into it.
Yeah,
Which is the idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Good. Awesome. Mine was really easy to memorize. I light up the room. It was like, okay, I can handle that one.
One phrase, sure.
One phrase, 5 words. Okay. Do you have some?
Yes.
Okay.
I am Large Marge.
Is that new? Did you come up with this week?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So.
And Large Marge is in charge.
That's ironic.
So cute.
That's awesome.
So, like, my biggest limiting belief is stay small. Like, that is just, like, constantly, like, stay
You're
small.
like-
So I'm like, you know what? No. I am large. And then my grandma's name was Marjorie. And she is just, like, the most amazing woman I've ever met. And when, yeah, so I have a lot of similarities with her.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know her. I mean, she got Alzheimer's when I was a teenager. And so I don't know a lot about her, but I know my dad as the man she raised. And just, there's so much about her. So it just hit me. I was like, large what? Like large Bertha? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Then I was like, Large Marge. I love it.
So awesome. I love it. It rhymes. It channels your grandma.
I know.
You know, it like brings her powers to you.
Yeah.
That's so meaningful.
So
I love
yeah,
it.
I absolutely love it. Because at first I was like, name, I don't know, but
Yeah. When you find the right one, it clicks,
it
right?
does.
Yeah.
I love being Large Marge.
It's like, watch out. It's kind of like being Big M. It's like Big M, Large March, you know? Hey, and it works because I'm Michelle.
Oh
and
yeah,
M.
it's meant to be.
That's
So-
awesome. Your M's either way.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
and then I had a mantra, but this morning I just totally simplified it because I was listening to a little thing, and anyways, it said you are creative. And whenever I read stuff about me and all that stuff, it's always you're creative. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not. I don't paint, I don't dance, I don't sing, I don't write, I don't do any of that. But I'm trying to write meditations right now, and it's really that belief of like, I can't do this. So it's just simple. I am creative. So
Yes, you are, and you're gonna grow into it.
Yeah.
More and more. And you're gonna find there's so many ways of creating.
well, what I'm finding already is like I always have ideas in my mind
Yes.
because I am
That's
creative,
Yeah.
but I like suppress them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's a dumb idea.
Right,
Or,
right.
oh, somebody's already done that.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Now you're just like, I am creative. I must spit them out.
Right. Just
Let
wait to
them
see
be
what
born.
Large Marge does.
No one gets to tell Large Marge what to do. Boom. I can see her like elbowing her way past resistance, just like watch out. That's awesome. I'm so
Do you remember
happy.
that talk by President Uchtdorf on creativity?
No.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a good one. We'll link you to it.
Yeah.
It's like a
Oh, was it a
quintessential-
while ago?
Yeah, like
Yes.
10, 12,
I
maybe
think I
15
do.
years ago. Yeah.
I think I do
So
actually.
good, yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
still
it's-
take the link if you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we
It's-
are all born
it's
to be
worth it.
creators. Like, we
Yeah.
all need to create. Like, it's just.
I remember that now. As you said, creators. I'm like, creative.
Yeah, it's
But I
about being
remember him talking about
creators.
being
Yes.
creators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you create a life. Like, you're creating a day every day. You're creating a life with all those days put together. I mean, we are creators. It's
Yeah.
just like we create children, we create experiences, we create
home.
We
smiles.
create, the feeling in our home.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's so fun. I love it. Woman. You
So
already
I'm
had
adventure
your-
girl.
Yes.
Yeah, already had that one. The mantra I came up with was courage is the driver, fear is in the back seat, which
Nice.
is courtesy of Big Magic. Weren't we talking
Yes,
about that
yes,
a few
Big
weeks
Magic.
ago?
Yep.
Yeah.
Courage is driving. I love
yeah,
it.
courage is the driver.
That's awesome.
Fear is in the back seat.
Good.
Good.
Who's
You
in the back
probably
Fear.
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 Fear is in the back seat.
Like, I acknowledge you're here.
Yeah.
That you're just
Yeah.
not in charge. You're not driving
Not in
this
charge.
bus.
Yep.
He's way in the back.
Large March is in charge.
Large Marge is in charge. Oh, there's another part of your mantra.
I actually like that. Large Marge is in charge.
That just kind of came out.
I know.
I'm so inspired. This is so great. What about your 150 accomplishments?
Okay, I had a question about that. Like, I was thinking of every ribbon I ever got and scraping
for it,
back
yes.
to childhood, and I'm still at like 90. I was like,
Really?
okay, what are you guys putting for?
Everyday things.
Well, I even put like, I haven't gotten in a car accident. I mean, I was
Nice.
trying to think of like
That's
everyday
awesome.
things.
I put give lots of hugs.
Okay.
Laugh a lot, go on field trips.
Yes.
And you can even put like, I go on field trips with this child.
Yeah.
I went to science camp, you know. I mean, I was at science camp on my 40th birthday.
True. Oh, that's
You know,
just
that was an
sad.
accomplishment.
I'm sorry.
I was there on my birthday. I was,
Wow.
I listed each one of my kids, like,
yeah. Gave birth to this child, gave birth to that child, gave birth to
raised
that
this
child.
child, raised this
Yeah.
one, did this.
All those birthday
Uh-huh.
parties, all those kids' birthday parties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All your hobbies, like if you do any
Uh-huh.
sports or hiking or biking.
Just every
or
event that you've ever
any
planned.
type of different crafts that you do.
I put patient-ish.
I accomplished being kind of patient once.
Sure, girl. I know. It is heavy. Yeah.
I put
okay,
cook dinner occasionally.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have all the times to make dinner, it might come up to one day.
For me. Although I feel really bad. I was supposed to take dinner to my visiting teacher's sister last night, and I had 3 meetings back to back, and I totally
Oh
spaced
no,
it.
oh
And I
no.
woke up this morning and went,
Can I borrow your notes? Mine did not print still.
oh, I totally forgot. So I totally blew that one. But we're
Uh-oh.
gonna take her dinner on Sunday instead. So
You just
But-
make it
We
extra.
always have leftovers
extra
anyways.
special.
Yes.
I feel like it's.
Okay,
Fun,
let's
fun.
start this lesson. Okay, so we're going to talk today about creating your inner sanctum. What are we calling it?
Secret
Your
lair.
secret lair.
Oh, that's cute.
So we want to do a superhero theme. We were kind of thinking like your bat cave, your secret lair, your inner sanctum, whatever you want to call it. Because every superhero has a place where they go, and it's like that's where they can go and be themselves. They can transition back and forth. And it has all their gadgets and all their gizmos and their bat car, all their monitors, you know, all this. I just picture like Batman's big computer screen. It's like watching the city. And we get to choose what it looks like and how it feels and the energy and the spirit that is there. And so when I was younger, I would take tests about what I wanted to be when I grew up, and it would always be either teacher or interior decorator. And so I've always loved interiors. And I would literally dream at night. Before I got married, I would dream about hanging curtains in my kitchens. After I got married, we rented this house for 3 years, and I would dream about painting the back wall sage. I was just like obsessed with the color sage. It was like the really trendy thing in like the early 90s. And I couldn't paint it because we were renting, so I would just dream about painting it sage. And so anyway, so it was really fun to have my own house, you know, eventually, and just do whatever you want and just create that feeling that you want. And even coming here, it's been really fun because it all was just like, it's kind of dark. I love her finishes, like the cupboards are like really, you know, top quality, and they have the soft closed drawers and everything, but everything is a little bit darker than I would have probably chosen for myself. So I came in and I brightened everything up with all my paintings and stuff like that, and it's been really fun, except that painting was hers, and of course it's like my favorite colors in there. So there was okay, so we're gonna talk today about your home and your surroundings, the items that you have in your home, and we also want to talk about color, obviously, because that's a huge part of who you are. And one of the reasons we're talking about atmosphere is because it's like free energy. It's like you make some good choices with what you're surrounded with, and then that's going to just lift you up subliminally every single day. So just kind of like we talk about like the vision boards, we're just trying to capture whatever power and energy we can by putting out there our vision, by putting the right words out there. You guys can just totally capitalize on extra free energy by having the right things around you and having your secret lair just the way you want it to be, and being in charge of what your secret lair is like, or your not so secret lair. Just every other place that you are. You can decide what the atmosphere is going to be like, and it makes a huge difference. When we were talking about this, we were talking about like even how we arrange things in our home. Why are things a certain way? Are they like Camille's? What were we talking about? Your stuff. It was there because my pantry was a certain way just because my daughter had unloaded the groceries the first time, and it was like after like a month, I'm like, this stuff does not make any sense, and I can never find anything. And I finally did it my way, and now it's like I know where everything is, and you know the baking stuff is on this shelf, and the pasta is on this shelf, and it's like our stuff in your home because somebody else decided it for you when they moved your boxes in, or because this was just more convenient at the time and you were in a massive hurry. But like, have you taken the time to think about like do I really need this stuff in this room, or does this need to be here, or why is this sitting out on the shelf all this time? I don't even like this picture, you know? I mean, just
Exactly.
take charge, take charge.
I had that, let me share something real quick.
Yeah.
I had an armoire sitting in the entryway hallway of my house forever. Mostly because I couldn't figure out where else to put it, and it was so big and bulky. You know, back when you used to have like your TV in there, and then the doors would close, and you know
Yeah.
which ones I'm talking about. Now the TVs are huge, you can't fit them in there
They're-
anymore.
Yeah.
So you can buy them anywhere for free. You can't even get rid of them.
Mhm.
And that thing, every time I walked by it, like I used it to put the kids' backpacks in, it was so irritating. And the day that I finally found someone to take it, like they didn't pay me anything, I
Yeah.
almost paid them to take
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly.
I did, I danced. I was so happy because that bulky thing that was taking up that space was gone. And it was like a tangible feeling.
So awesome. So there was a recent study by some researchers at University of Illinois, and they found that kids did better on their tests in a room where they could see a patch of grass outside the window, as opposed to windows where it was just like concrete or another side of another building. And just little things like that, like why not capture that energy that is just totally, you know, gonna be wasted or non-existent anyways. Like, let's just do those simple things. I worked at this boutique last weekend, and this was like the little flyer that was there, and when I got home, I was like, this is totally what we're gonna talk about next week. So it said, your home should tell the story of who you are and be a collection of what you love brought together under one roof. And so that's Nate Berkus, who's like that designer who designs a bunch of stuff for Target now, but he had his own show for a little bit on, anyways. The people would pick up this flyer and be like, is Nate Berkus gonna be here next week? And at first I thought he was a singer, and I'm like, because they kept talking about how our playlist on the playlist is awesome, and everyone comes up to the front counter where I was working and they're like dancing and stuff. Have you guys ever been to Highland Yard? Okay, it's like on Arizona Avenue and Warner.
Field trip?
Yes, you would die. It's only open once a month for 4 days, and it's like home decor stuff and like jewelry and clothes. It's like boutique-y stuff, and it's awesome. And a lot of it is vintage. Seriously, I could spend $1 million there. But I just worked there for like 6 hours to
So,
help out.
can you read the quote again? Your
Yes.
home should tell the story of who you are.
Yes, we'll pass
Okay,
it around.
thanks.
And I almost put it in the book, but then I ran out of room. Okay, I love it. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so the one quote I did put in there, it says, where we are has the potential to mold who we are. I love, love, love that one. It's so true. Our environment has a huge impact on us, which, another example of this is several years ago, before we renovated, we remodeled our, not the last house I was just in, but the house before that, we were in there for 17 years. But I remember my carpets being so gross that for like a year, I swear I could not feel the spirit downstairs. Honestly, it was so bad. I was like, it was the focus of all of my energy was, I hate these carpets, I hate these carpets, I hate these carpets, they are so gross. And it was like, finally, I seriously was like, my brain, it was like the spirit was back. Because, and literally, I don't know how you guys are, but that's how something can like really detract. And it's just like takes all your energy and your attention. And then once we just ripped out all the carpets and we just did tile the whole downstairs. And it was just like the best money I'd ever spent, because then the spirit was back. Okay. Think about home court advantage. Think about like even just a team being in their own home, and obviously the crowd and the people, and we're gonna talk about the people in our secret lair, but there is such real power in your environment and in the things that you have around you and the people you have around you.
I love the fact that my kids want to be home and they want their friends to come to our house. So, like,
Yes.
our house is like the hangout spot for all
Yes.
of my kids and their friends.
Yes.
And they say like the house is clean, it's like bright, it's like a fun place to be, you know, obviously. There's just like a lot of, I don't know, there's just like a good vibe about it, and the kids want to
It really
be there,
truly
they want
is.
to hang out there, you know. And like my son was like, Mom, all of my friends' houses are so messy.
Oh,
And
yay.
it's like my house is not clean. It really
But
truly is not
Not
clean.
messy.
But it's not. It's picked up. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? And
exactly.
so I think that there's a difference there.
Yeah, that's huge.
Plus, you're there, Jen.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. You're
You're
also in the
great.
spirit. Well, and dedicating your homes. Like my home is dedicated. This home, I asked my husband about 1 million times to dedicate our old house. Oh, I don't think we need to. I think we already did. Da, 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 da. Anyways, so this home is dedicated. Priesthood member, dedicated my home. Huge. That's awesome. Priesthood member, priesthood holder. And actually could have even dedicated it myself. I mean, actually, when you look in the handbook and stuff, anyone can say a prayer and dedicate their home to the Lord, you know. But it was pretty cool. Okay, so my husband used to accuse me of being a hoarder, which was really offensive because I'm a clean person. I'm just not an OCD neat freak like him. But I love things that remind me of other things. Like this shirt, for example, reminds me of my sister. She had a favorite shirt with a Rollersaurus on it. So we made Rollersaurus shirts a few years ago. They say Rollersaurus across the bottom. This is the second incarnation of the Rollersaurus because we had a family reunion here in Arizona, so we added the little cactus. And just like the Rollersaurus, it just means a million awesome memories with my sister. So this one thing means so much. And so when I moved in here, you know, I was really afraid of what it would be like to move out and to be on my own in my own house and everything. So I've always been a hoarder of happiness, but I really have been, especially this house. I like surrounding myself with every positive, beautiful thing I could think of that I owned to help me feel better and just to be reminded, you're not alone. You're going to be okay. You've done great things. You're going to continue to do great things. God loves you. Remember when this happened and this happened and this happened. So I just want to take you guys on a little field trip upstairs to show you my room and how I have been a hoarder of happiness. And it is hilarious. I Googled like sentimental objects that hold memories or the power of sentimental objects. Every single article, except for maybe one, was about the object doesn't really hold the memory. You don't really need it. Declutter, simplify, declutter. And I'm like, no! I want to hoard it. I'm not going to throw away these super special sentimental things that mean so much to me. Now, of course, I have lots of things in boxes from when I was little, and those aren't all out. So I do have balance, okay? Like, not everything is out.
Prove anything but
Exactly. Yes, thank you. But what I'm saying is you don't have to have every single sentimental, positive, beautiful thing around you all the time. But luckily, you'll see my nightstands are quite large, and so I have lots of room for my pretty little things that just, each one holds memories. So let's go look at that. So obviously we can start down here with my paintings that I did, and that was mostly for just color in the brown and yellow house. And to also remind myself that I do have talents, and I can make great things.
I'll just finish it. No, it'll be too brown. Anyway.
Okay, you guys, just so you know, see how there's these marks on the wall and then these different colors of paint? Can you guys see there's different colors of paint on the wall? See those black splotches? So this was, yeah, well, now you'll notice them that parents, when you go to her parents, you should go to her parents' house. It is it is literally a mansion, and it is a museum, and there is just showcase after huge animal, after huge sculpture, after, they go to Africa and they buy every, they're probably trying to help every single artist out. Right. Every single thing.
Yes, I know.
Oh my gosh, so cute.
Hey,
Okay.
can I just make a disclaimer? I
Yes.
have a sick kid at home today, so if
Oh,
I'm texting,
no
it's
problem.
just sorry.
You're mothering. You're nurturing and mothering from here. Okay, some other things about your environment is we found some cool things about automating good decisions. So, when you're deciding how things go in your home, you can also just be wise, don't leave temptations out in the open. Design your environment to help you make good decisions. And it even said buy smaller plates if you are trying to eat, healthier or less. 22%, let's see, there was a study at Cornell University that found that people eat 22% less food by switching from a 12-inch plate to a 10-inch plate. So a lot of your environment, you can just set yourself up for success by putting the good things in front of you and the bad things away, the temptations away. And then the third thing was get in the flow. So he was talking about how literally in this article, he talked about how people are more likely to go to the gym if it's on their way to work, even if it is further away than if it's 5 minutes away but the opposite direction. So just that's an example for outside your home, how sometimes just the things being in the right places can help. And then the Japanese television manufacturers, they found that when they rearranged their workers' workspaces so they had to do the least amount of turning and bending as possible, they were just massively more productive and efficiency just super increased. Just little tiny things, of okay, wait a minute, put this here instead of here. And even when designers put together kitchens. You know, you want to have your dishwasher and your stove and your fridge and your sink all arranged as, you know, efficiently as possible. It's not just about looking pretty, it's about being efficient. So when you do stuff like that, you can really increase your productivity by just where you put things. For example, when I made my craft room for the first time in 2015, I really had no idea that I had my craft stuff in like seven different places. And I was like, oh, you had the kids' craft stuff down there, and then I had my stuff in my closet, and then I had the gift wrapping stuff up in the guest room closet, and then I had some stuff in the garage, and like getting it all together, putting it in one place, it was like, boom, now I can create way faster, way easier, and it's just like right at my fingertips, and it makes a huge difference. So if you could do something like that for yourself, it is awesome. Okay, so let's talk about the colors. So go to the ice cream scoop page really quick. And I seriously loved researching about the different colors and the different powers that they have. I mean, it's huge. For me, like turquoises and blues, I love, and I didn't really realize how much I love them until, well, Melody's favorite color is turquoise. And one time I was looking at some pictures on her blog, back when we used to blog instead of Facebook, at her home, and it was just like turquoise and coral and all these beautiful colors. And I looked around my house and I was like, what the heck? I was just kind of like, I don't know, my stuff was much more conservative back then. I just wanted to make everything last forever, and I didn't want it to be really flashy.
You want it to be classic.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I wanted it to be classic, and it had to look like Pottery Barn set, right? But then it was like, oh no, I love this kind of stuff. And I really started getting more free with how I decorated, and just like, and instead of like going to Target and finding like a cute something that they say is a decoration, I would go to like an antique store, to Goodwill, and I found my turquoise telephone, which is like my favorite item of all times. I literally picked it up and was like, oh, I want this so bad. It was like $25. I'm like, do I need a turquoise telephone? Like, do you guys know what I'm talking about? I need to show Michelle. This is like one of my favorite.
Does it still work?
Well, it could. I mean, it has a cord.
Oh, that's cute.
Isn't that to die
Even
for?
the cord is turquoise.
I thought about cutting it off one time just to make it more, but I'm like, yeah, even the cord is cute and turquoise. I need to keep this up here.
Come back.
I used to have this in my, I used to have it on my front bench in my house, so you'd see it every time you walked in, and kids would come and play with it, you know. Anyways, I was like, I wanted it so bad, but I was like, oh, I'd already spent a bunch of money on belts and all the other stuff at this antique store. And then my sister-in-law, we had split up, and then we met back up like an hour later, and she comes back and she's holding the phone. She's like, I saw this, you have to get it. I'm like, getting it. It like literally came back to me, you know. If you really love it and you really want it, it'll come back.
Let it go.
Let it go. Put that with the
My
universe.
son showed me a video on Facebook the other day where a dad gave his nephew and his son a phone like that and said, here's the phone number, you have 30 minutes to dial this phone number.
No way.
And they couldn't
do it.
figure it out.
They're like, I'm so confused.
It was hilarious.
So
They would get
confused.
like halfway, they'd like do a part of it and then they'd let it go, but they didn't like go all the way around.
Oh
to
my
get their
gosh.
pumps
That is
set.
awesome. That is awesome. Okay, so just one last thing, in case you wanted to know, this is the color of the year for this year from Benjamin Moore.
That's my one color.
Yeah, see, you knew. You knew. And it is like already one of my favorite colors, like this dark teal. Ah, yummy. Anyways, just how colors can make you just super happy. And also, some colors just you don't like. I don't like red. I hate red. I have an issue with red. And I'm
Don't
sorry.
be.
And my
It's
friend,
a
my
personality
my
thing, though.
mentor-
Like, some people
yeah.
like, I mean,
I used to have a lot of red in my house, and there was some trauma in my bedroom upstairs one time. And after this event, I never wanted to be around red again. And I literally the next day, I just took all my curtains down, I took my bedspread off, and I got rid of the red in my bedroom, and then I eventually changed it in other places. And now it's like corals and pinks and blues and all that fun stuff, but like red itself, it just reminds me of trauma. And so colors are, I mean, for me, for reals, like even in my paintings, I just like, oh, I'll just use like a dark burgundy or whatever.
Yeah, like
this
I was
bird-
looking at that.
This bird is kind of reddish, but that's as close as I get. You know, just straight up crimson. It's just blood and trauma, and it's just not good. So, anyways, that's for me how powerful colors can be. So we won't take the time to look through, read all the ice cream cones, but when you're looking around your secret lair this week, just kind of think of what things you want to evoke, like the sunshine, like even your name, sunshine, like yellow. I mean, it's just so joyful and happy, and you can bring that energy and that power to your house just with just those little simple choices.
I was reading too, in Eastern culture, color is a very big thing, and it symbolizes a lot of things.
Well, like the feng shui too, you know.
Right.
Well,
Like
and
we talked about that.
chakras. You guys were talking about chakras. Yeah, they each have
Perfect.
different colors.
Exactly. Okay, I'm gonna turn the time over to Camille, who's gonna talk about other important aspects of our secret lair.
Yes. Thank you. That was so fun. I was looking everywhere for my pen so I could take notes.
Yay. Oh, did you find it?
I did. Now I'm
Well, it's all recorded, so, wait,
Did you take them? Did you hide them from
I
me?
did take them. Did I put them upstairs? Well, who's in charge of this?
I don't know.
Who's in charge of this?
Well, I can
I'll
go.
get over here.
I can. Okay.
When I want to
When
get
you
my
got
phone.
your blue telephone.
Yes.
So, we're talking about environment. A big part of your environment is people.
Yay!
Do not discount people. I always think of that Seinfeld episode where Jerry's like, they're talking about people, and he's like, yeah, they're the worst. You guys got my Seinfeld? They're making jokes about that. Anyway, and so let me just give you this disclaimer before I go any further. I don't want you to think that people are disposable. They are not disposable. When I'm talking about children, I know we talked about that. People are important. Every person is important, no matter what they're doing. So, but they do influence us. So the goal in teaching you guys this is to help you be mindful of who you surround yourself with, the company that you keep. And when we're growing up and we're young, we don't really have control over that, or we're not aware of that. We kind of end up playing with the kid that lives next door, or we make our friends out of the people that are in our first grade class, or whatever it is. And even as adults, I find that you oftentimes you become friends with the people that your kids are playing with, the parents. Like your kids go out in the cul-de-sac and they play, and then the moms all chat. Okay, so all of that is just a natural thing that happens. But what I've discovered getting a little bit older and having my kids mostly leave is that I can afford to be more intentional about who I want to hang around with. And that has made a huge difference. And a lot of times as I move through my life, I look back at a friendship and I just kind of think, what happened to that person? Why did we, it's not even, and now that I've lived in Arizona for this long, we never lived anywhere very long. My whole life growing up, my whole married life up until we got here, we moved every 3 years about, just for different reasons. And that was just my normal. So I did become very good at meeting people and making friends really fast because I had to. But anyway, so what I learned was that, sometimes you look back at a friendship that you might have had a few years ago, even if they're still in the environment, but you part ways and it's just a normal parting of ways a lot of times. It's just your values have changed or whatever. And I always try to teach my children that, because sometimes I remember a situation with my older daughter who had a little group of friends. It was the same thing. They were all the same age. They all were in, primary together, whatever they did together. And then they got to junior high, right? Junior high, things can really change a lot. And that happened. And my daughter was kind of, being friends with other people. And some of the people she was friends with, the parents got kind of upset because she wasn't it was just like a lot of drama. And I just kept saying, it's okay to reach out and meet new people and have new friends. It's not like you have to be attached to that person for life. It's just a natural process. So I feel pretty strong about that. Anyway, bring it back into what we're talking about now. So everything in your life is vibration. All of the things that Sarah talked about, all of your objects, the colors, all that's vibration. People are like that way too. So we're going to do a little activity, and I want you guys to open up your workbook, past the colorful cones, which I absolutely loved when she showed me that page. I just want to take a bite of that big ice cream.
Seriously.
And I want you to just write out your top 10 people. So when I say that, it just means the people that you spend your time with. Okay, that's what I mean by top 10. You don't have to worry about ranking them at all. It's just, who are you spending your days with? Who's in your world? Sorry, there's a lead over here so I can look at it.
Does it matter physically or just like
Physically.
proximity? Like it doesn't matter.
These are people that she literally is with.
Yeah, but they could be people you talk to on the phone a lot also. So it could be whatever. If you don't have 10, it's okay. You don't don't strain yourself trying to. I don't know why I'm not paired anymore.
I'll bring it over for later.
It's right here, dear.
Oh,
How are you going?
I don't see it over there.
It's right here.
Oh, it's right here. They're almost done anyways, but
Yeah, I know. We probably didn't need it.
it just turned off. That's all. And the battery is dying.
No, it says connected. Okay. That's loud on the big speaker. All right. Was this a hard one for you guys? Okay. Okay, good. So consider the people in that list and some of the questions that are on here. This is just purely for you guys to have an awareness of what's going on. You don't have to like make a list or check a box or anything. Just think about the people that you're around the most. What do they talk about? What's their topic of conversation, or what's your topic of conversation with them? Do you confide in them about your hopes and your dreams? You know, do they gossip? Do they complain? I feel like you can learn a lot about somebody in how they talk about someone who's not there. You know, are they always lifting, or are they constantly dinging? I was in a situation yesterday that was kind of uncomfortable for me, that I'm not usually in. I do some habilitation for a little girl with autism afternoons. And her mom was hiring a new speech therapist. And so they really like me a lot. They think I'm great, which, okay, I'm great. But anyway, so she was like, yeah, I do. So she came in and she's like, can you just, like, I really trust your opinion. Tell me what you think about the speech therapist. So the whole time she was kind of interviewing her, I was sitting there just watching and listening to them. And almost the whole time, the mom was bad-mouthing the last speech therapist. And I was like, and she would look at me like, right? Like, and this other speech therapist, she would never do that, right? And I was like, you know, so like, I usually don't hang around people that do that. I just don't choose
Do you think she was
to.
trying to explain to the new speech therapist how she wanted her to be?
Yeah, but she was going a little far
Okay,
in
she's
the other
taking it
direction.
too far.
Yeah, and she kind of kept hammering that point. And, you know, sometimes people use that as a point of connection. Like, she was trying to connect with me, right? We're both in this together, right? Didn't she
We're
do that?
buddies.
Let's let her know. And so, I don't know, that probably doesn't happen to you guys, but if it does, just be aware of that. So think about those people, how they are around
It's
you.
almost like they're trying to draw you into their energy circle, and you're just like,
Exactly.
This is not
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
interesting for me to be there just on the couch, not being able to say anything or whatever, but trying to be as neutral as I could without disrespecting her in this
Right.
conversation. So it was interesting. And just think about, you know, how well does the other person listen? The people that you're around, do they listen, or are they always story topping? Are they always trying to get the last word in? Just things to think about. And so let's go to the second list, which is the 5 top people. So I want you to think about who you spend time with, or maybe you don't spend enough time with someone that you can think of that lifts you up. All right? Who sees the good in you? So go ahead and take a second to write down the top 5 people who lift you up. If you have something really exciting happening to you, who do you call? Who can you not wait to call and share it with? Like, I love calling Sarah about things because she's always excited. She's like, whoa! And I'm like, whoa! So we just do a lot of, you should see our text thread. Oh my gosh. The emojis.
So many emojis. Or how many high fives we do when we're together?
A zillion.
A million high
Yeah.
fives.
And all the exclamation points.
Yes.
My husband's like, how many exclamation points do you need in
There
a
is
sentence?
not enough in the world.
Right. So I'm like,
Sometimes.
there's no shortage. Why don't try to.
There's no shortage.
There's no shortage. You can use as many as
Yeah.
you want.
It's interesting, I think, to me how when you're contemplating a decision, you tend to call the person that you know that will give you the answer that
Of
you
course.
Totally.
It's the
I-
bias.
Whatever it is, either
Yeah.
positive
Yeah.
or negative.
Yeah.
Yeah. My brother called me once with, he wanted some help. He was going through a really hard time, and a really hard time. And he called me for advice, and he knew that he was actually kind of asking about prayer, and he doesn't go to church, and he has never really gone to church since he was 14. And I thought to myself, that is super interesting, because he knew what answer I was going to give him. He was calling me for a certain type of answer, which was super, super comforting to know that he was looking for something like that. And he loved what I said, you know? Oh, it was
He
so
trusts
great.
you.
Yeah, he totally trusts me.
All right. So tell me, like, I'd love to hear from you guys. What does it mean? Who is a friend that lifts you up? Like, what do they do? Think of somebody in your mind.
They don't have to be in this room.
They can.
She's a huge part of my life. But I've also thought about, like, Dana Stringham is a huge mentor to me, and just like the encouraging, the like, I hear you, like, I want you to know that I don't understand this, but I'm here for you, or
Right.
just like that kind of stuff.
Like validation
Validation
of
and-
whatever you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could put on here, who sees you? You know, who's somebody that actually sees you, where you're just like, oh, I feel like when I'm with that person, they actually really see me,
Yeah.
and they know who I am, and they still like me, and that's great.
Yes. Like where you can just be your true authentic self.
Yeah.
Like,
You don't have to hold
good,
anything
bad,
to do that.
ugly. Like,
Yeah.
because Michelle's seen me do some ugly crying.
Oh, gosh.
Shawnee's seen me.
But
Hey, as long as
just-
you both.
Someone you can ugly cry around.
Yeah,
Write that down
exactly.
there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just express like the gratitude, like just knowing that they have the intention that you set in regards to it. Like constantly, like just telling Dana how much I appreciate him in being such a great mentor, and knowing that there's that level of respect of that, because he's married, and not crossing that boundary. Like, I don't know how to explain that. I've just always been impressed with that in regards to him, because that hasn't always been the case with men in my life.
Yeah.
So I really respect that, and knowing that I can express my appreciation and gratitude, and it doesn't go misunderstood. I don't know how to explain that.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel safe in that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend in Utah that we got to be really close friends. She was 15 years older than I am, but she got pregnant with her youngest by accident at the same time I got pregnant with Mason. So our kids are like 2 days apart, and we just really are really close. But she is my one friend I can call when I want to know the honest truth, because she doesn't sugarcoat anything.
That's awesome.
She tells it exactly how it is, and she's very like, I don't know, very grounded. Like she gets it, and she's had a lot of life experience, and so I feel like you can trust her to tell her anything, and she won't be judgmental, but she'll tell you straight up.
Mm-hmm. So would you consider her, just curious, would you consider her one of your top 5 people?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
would? Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love it. Thank you. How about you, Michelle? How would you describe a person on this list for you?
Yeah, Shawnee's one of mine, and I also have a friend in Utah that she's been through. We've been friends since junior high, so she's been through my whole life with me, and she knows my whole story. And she'll always like, I'll call her or I'll Marco Polo her, and like I'll talk to her, and she'll always validate me, but then she will be like, okay, but let's look at it from another perspective, you know. But I trust her. I know that she's never going to give me the answer that I want.
But it may be one you need.
You know, but I trust that. It feels good to know, like, that, but Shawnee's the same way. Like, I know that, but I noticed that a lot of all the people on my list, I have taken a lot of people off. A lot of my family is on, none of my extended family is on my list. And so, it just was a weird situation. But all the people on my top 10 are the people that lift me up.
Wow, nice job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
good.
it's like,
That says a lot.
it's been a process, like mourning, like weeding those people out, but recognizing having that constant contact was draining me. It was draining me. And so even though they're family, and I should be like, you know, I had in my mind I needed to be doing this, and I needed to be talking to them all the time. It was draining me.
Yeah. Right.
So
And that's okay.
I was like, oh, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
So,
That's
I
good.
think you have to sometimes go outside your family though to be objective. I don't know. Sometimes
Yes.
I think family members are too close to the situation. Sometimes I think to really,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on what the situation is. If it's a family thing, for sure. But yeah.
Some of my greatest friends are ones that challenge me. Like if I say something, they're like, they'll challenge that and be like, well, you know what? And I'm like, oh, like where it's just that reframing. Oh, I'm not expressing myself. I have a lot of good.
No, I know what you mean.
I feel like I'm not expressing myself, but
Well,
like
it's kind of like what she was saying with her one friend who will tell her that she'll validate her, but then she'll help her see it from like a different perspective.
exactly.
Well, we've had some really intense conversations because
Yes.
we see things like totally different. But at the end of the conversation, we're like, let's have some cake together. Like literally.
Seriously. And at one point, I remember the conversation. I'm like, I'm really frustrated with you right now. But like, it was
You
like
can say it.
it was a healthy. Like I felt like it was a healthy conversation, and I've never had those, and I've experienced that several times with not only Michelle, but just with other women in Family Fusion. And it's really, it gives you that your brain the, like how to have a healthy conversation, because my brain didn't know. Like it get to a certain point in a conversation with certain people, and I'd be like, out, I'm out. Yeah, like I'm out. And and then getting over that hump, and then getting cheesecake together afterwards.
But it wasn't even good cheesecake.
Darn it.
Good conversation.
Do over. You gotta do it over.
Right?
Yeah.
Talk about that again.
You guys are awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That's really helpful. How about you, Jen?
Well, I definitely have you, Camille, on my list of top 10 and top 5. Yeah. So I still remember realizing, like, to me, you were talking about proximity is a big thing. For me, it's like a badge of honor for a friendship when I'm friends with somebody in the ward and I think, oh, I'm gonna stay friends with them even when we're not in the same ward. I remember like writing that in a card to Camille, like, I'll be your friend even though we're not in the same ward. That's an accomplishment. Like, anyway, so yeah, just like when you kind of realize you've taken it to that like next level of friendship of like, we'll stay together no matter where we live, even if there's not proximity.
Yeah,
So.
That's cute. That's awesome. You have any comments on this, my dear?
Oh, I just love that. I'm so bad about that. Like if I have no proximity, then I just start floating away because I don't know what it is. I think for a long time, my focus was just so much on my kids and my family and navigating my marriage that it was like so many of those things kind of just floated away. So reconnecting is really fun.
And it's all what you want.
Yeah.
It's your intention. If that's not important to you, it's all right.
Yeah.
Because some people
some of my
only need a few
girlfriends,
people, and
some of my girlfriends get together all the time. And they would ask me, because we were all in the same ward, and they would ask me, and at first, a couple times I did, I mean, I would get together with them and do lunch and do racquetball and stuff like that, but eventually it was just like, it was too much of a stress on my marriage, because my husband was super controlling, so I would get in trouble when I got home, even though he said, yes, I can go, but then again, also, it was just like, I just didn't need that as much as they do. They just need that, and I love my alone time. I mean, I would just love to sit and paint and listen to a book on Audible, so that's like my second favorite thing to do. You know?
Is that you, Michelle?
Not pain, but
Yeah.
like I love being alone.
Yeah,
Me too.
Right on that.
exactly. Same here.
That's awesome.
I put myself on my list.
Yeah.
I love spending.
Who am I gonna kick off?
Yeah, someone's gotta go. So true.
You can't have more than 10, you know.
Okay.
Right in 11.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. Okay. So let's talk about the table of influence. I know some of you guys have probably heard of this concept. I've learned it in a couple of different places, but for me, this was a game changer because one way I like to think of that table of influence is voices in my head. And so many times that would happen, like the people on your table of influence are the people that are influencing you whether you know it or not. And sometimes it's live people that are right near you in your life, and other times it's people from your past. You know, like it's a given. Well, we haven't had you do the exercise yet, but you know, our Heavenly Father and our Savior, they're there.
Holy Ghost.
That's a given. Yeah, they are there. But for instance, when I think about there's certain things that I do, like we did a lot of writing, and you know, when we're constructing flight school. And advertising, oh my gosh, so much copy, so much like yada, yada, yada. And always when we were editing, we had so much fun, like editing and writing together.
So fun.
We had so much fun doing
Crafting
that.
sentences and
Yes.
words and flyers.
I don't think I even knew
creativity.
how much you were into that.
Yeah.
Because
That's what I
I'm
learned in
into
politics.
that.
That was one of my skills I learned in political stuff. It's like you have 30 seconds, you know, to talk to this person on the phone.
Yeah.
You gotta craft your message, girl.
Yeah, every word counts.
Yeah.
So we had so much fun choosing words and taking words out. And when I was in high school, English was my big thing. Like I was in all advanced classes, not in math and those other subjects, but in English I was up there. I always loved words. When I was a kid, I used to read the dictionary. My mom told me I used to come in here and you'd be reading the dictionary. I know that's so nerdy, but I did. I loved words. I loved to read. I was a bookworm everywhere I went. I read a lot of comic books too.
Dictionary comic books.
Yeah, you see the comic
one
book
kind
and-
of filled in the other.
Yes, exactly. But so I had a teacher. I had actually 2 teachers in high school. One of them, I couldn't even remember her name except her first name was Lucy. And I would be typing and I'd be writing something and her voice would come into my head. You don't need that word. That word doesn't mean anything. And I'd be like, all right, Lucy, I'd take it out. So that's what I'm talking about with your table of influence. It's the voices in your head when you're in any situation. Like you were saying, like sometimes if it's a stressful situation, you might hear voices from maybe people that you don't welcome.
Right.
You know, you're under the gun and you might hear your husband's voice or somebody else's voice saying something that you don't like. I know you were going to say something about that.
Well, yeah, for me, like, when I went to Brave Girls Camp, I really, really, really had to, like they were talking about kicking the person out of your soul house, right? I took him on the front porch or the moon, and he's definitely a moon person. And I had to, like, surgically remove him from my brain. Because it was like his eyes were looking through my eyes, and his ears were listening through my ears, and he was telling me what he thought about everything that I was experiencing. And I don't want to know what he thinks about it, because he thinks it's all stupid. He thinks anything about emotions are stupid, and anything about affirmations are stupid, and, you know, and I was just like, I knew Sarah was enjoying this experience, and Sarah had a lot to learn, and I needed to get his ideas of what I was learning and thinking out of my head. And that was where I started the surgical process. It is still going, because lots of times I will think something, and I'll say it out loud, and you know, my friend will be like, well, that's not your thoughts, those are Russ's thoughts. And I was like, dang it, he's still in there. Ah! Okay, get out the little, you know, the little probes, the little lasers that cut, you know, really precisely. Remove him from that section. And it's gonna be a long process, 26 years of like asking him, what does this mean? You know, or like hearing his perspective about everything. And how he talked about people and all those kind of things. Like he was the kind of person who would just sit there and badmouth people for hours, and it's like, yeah, I need to remove all that stuff, so it'll take a while. But so he's still at my table of influence,
Yeah.
even though I don't want him there, and I'm trying to get rid of him.
Yeah, you're working on it. Were you going to say something over here?
Just that, yeah, I think it would take time. But also, one thing that I've learned in years of thought work
Yeah.
is that just because you have a thought doesn't mean it's your identity. You know what I mean?
Right,
Just
right.
that
You don't have
idea
to own
that,
it.
like, yeah, I heard that voice, but it's,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean like anything. It just flows
It's just
right
words
there.
that float through
Yeah.
my brain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to validate them, use them,
Mm-hmm.
and
Have to
internalize
dance with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just they're in
Yeah.
and then they're out.
There they are again. There's that thought
Yeah,
again.
isn't that interesting?
Oh, there he is.
Bye-bye.
What a silly thought. I would never think that. Get out.
Yeah. It just gives it less power.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? The
totally.
less
That's
like
the whole
entangled you
point,
get
less
with
power. Like it
Yeah.
might still be there, but I
it.
don't
Yeah,
have to give
it
it
could
any
be there
power.
for decades. Yep.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
you don't have
Sometimes
to
the
tangle.
opposite can give
Thank
your
you.
thoughts more power too. Because I feel like sometimes I'm forced to really take a stand for what I believe. Because my husband and I tend to disagree on a lot of things.
Mhm.
And so it forces me to question my beliefs. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? So
Yeah.
people ask me a lot, well, how, you know, sometimes I feel like we kind of live with the elephant in the room as far as like our religious beliefs sometimes. And, I think I've come to over the years separate that out. This is the way he thinks, but that's the way he thinks. It's not the way I think. This is what I believe. And that's okay.
It's actually a gift, those kind of people, because they force you to identify what it is you really do believe. Because my husband's like that too. He's very black and white, and he just is very opinionated. There's nothing he doesn't have an opinion about.
Right.
And
And you can't surgically remove them because they're
constantly
Yeah.
inputting.
yeah, and you know, maybe you don't want to,
Right,
but you
right.
want you don't want to
But
be
you have to be able
entangled
to
in that.
separate that.
Yeah, totally. That's true. All right, so when you're thinking about these people, I hope you guys are starting to kind of have a little list in your head. Think about who you want to be there. That was a really fun exercise for me when I first did my first table of influence. Is gosh, whose voice do I want to hear more of? And I might not even have a personal relationship with them. Think about
Like
people
Jody
that I
Moore.
admire. Yeah, like Jody Moore is one of those voices that, you know, I kind of found her through a couple of different ways, and then I started sort of following her, listening to her, and I was like, I like this voice. This is representing something that I believe in. It's really resonating with me. And so I went to her live event when she was here in Phoenix a couple months ago, And afterwards, she was meeting people, taking pictures, and I said, "You're one of my mentors." And she's like, "Really? That's awesome." And she was. She didn't even know it. So I didn't have a personal relationship with her. So your people on the table of influence can be whoever you want. It's who lifts you up. Whose voice do you want to hear? So think about that. Think about the voices that are maybe there from the past. Like my English teacher voice, I want it there. I like it there. But maybe there's a voice from an old teacher that said things that like still pop up once in a while, and I'd be like, what, how did that get there? I don't really believe that thought is not serving me anymore. I need to like weed it out of the garden.
Well, and sometimes I think of it as I'm claiming my space. It kind of goes back to, you're the house, but yeah, I can claim the space in here and put stakes down.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So I want you guys to
plant
kind
a
of,
flag in your own brain.
Yep.
let's see, make sure I got all the questions at the top.
Can I just say something really quick?
Yes.
Donna and I came to realize that we had a common friend. And it was a teacher that I had in elementary school that was my gifted teacher, and she actually taught Donna to become a gifted teacher. And so we actually met with her a couple weeks ago and had lunch with her.
Oh my
the
gosh,
three of
you
us.
did? How fun!
It was so
I bet she was
so
dying that you guys
amazing.
contacted
and
her.
she's like one of those people that was hugely influenced on my child. And Donna just gave me a card at yoga yesterday that she had given to me, and I read it last night, and I was just dying. She's in her 80s.
Yeah.
She's like so sharp, but she had like written all these things in this card that we had talked about. I'm so glad you shared about this. You're such a good mom. And like she had remembered everything that we had talked about in the conversation, and I was just so impressed with what a good listener she was and how she like took those things and perceived them. And that's what makes an amazing friend. And I just was just
What a
blown
neat
away by
experience
that.
that you guys had.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So cool. And that you both knew
I
her.
love that. That's so great. I bet that was like her favorite thing ever, getting a call from her old students.
So I want you guys to work on this. I'm not going to give you a whole lot of time right now because I'm going to give it to you for homework, but I want you to really consider who are those voices in your head? Who are those people sitting at your table?
So are we at our table?
You're at your table.
You're at the head of your table.
Yeah, you're there for sure. Hopefully your own voice is in your head amongst all the other ones. Do you guys have any questions about this or comments on the table of influence? Make sure I cut
You're already started.
people you respect and admire. Yeah, maybe some of those,
Yeah,
those
like Abigail
previous
Adams would
lists.
be at my table with all the impersonating of her that I've done, and just like trying to
Absolutely.
I want her voice in my head,
Yeah. Somebody whose voice
So
you
somebody
want
who's
in your
not,
head. That's
yeah,
a good one.
she's not obviously physically here, but like I've just for 13 years I've been learning and teaching about her. And
You
stuff
can
like that,
learn,
so.
you can be mentored by people that are dead. You
Yeah.
read their words.
I mean,
You
they're
read
pretty
their
good ones
legacy.
because they can literally come around you and help you out too. Lots of times I would
Yes.
pray for her influence or her spirit to help me,
Awesome.
get these concepts across.
I love it. Okay, so I'll leave that for you guys. Oh, let me give you just a couple
Yeah,
minutes.
let's start out a little bit of music.
Yeah, we'll stew on that for a few minutes. I still have some other stuff I want to share with you guys. Oh, was I gonna sit down? The shoes are going.
They're so
Bye-bye.
cute.
I know that's a thing. I don't want
Darn.
to take them off. They
Darn
make
those
the
shoes.
outfit, but oh, shoes. Barefoot's the best.
Especially on this rug.
Another one of my voices in my head is my gymnastics teacher, my very first gymnastics coach when I was in elementary school. And I hear her voice. Every time I teach yoga, I hear her voice.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep,
Is it
she's there.
positive? Is
Yeah,
it a
oh
good
yeah.
thing? Uh-huh.
Then I had a gymnastics teacher or coach in junior high and high school, and she was the devil.
Get
I've
out.
done so much work to get that one out.
Yeah.
But even with her, I had a really cool tender mercy much
Good.
later about her,
Good.
where I was able to soften my feelings
Yeah.
towards her. So.
Yep.
Couple eggs. So hopefully you guys got a little taste of your table of influence, or for those of you guys that have done this experience, I feel like it's always good to revisit it and see who's there again. Because sometimes it might surprise you.
People creep in.
People who
You
asked
pull up
to
a
leave.
chair, and you're like,
They
wait,
pulled up a chair again, I know, right? Get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, have you guys ever noticed that when you go to meetings, are you familiar with the meeting after the meeting concept? Like, there's a meeting with a whole bunch of people, and then the meeting ends, and either some people stick around or they go somewhere else, like maybe out for lunch or coffee, and then they have a meeting after the meeting, and guess what they talk about at the meeting after the meeting? The undiscussables. The things that didn't get addressed in the meeting with all the people. So my husband, I've told you, is very political. So he goes to these meetings, and then there's always a meeting after a meeting,
I love that.
and it's always at Denny's. I don't know why. Denny's.
I've been to those meetings with him, by the way.
Oh yeah, so you're familiar, yeah. And he's like, that's the best part. You don't want to miss the meeting after the meeting. And I thought, why is that the best part? Why don't you guys just cover your business during the regular meeting? And it's because the important items aren't getting discussed for whatever reason. It's just like the elephant in the room topic.
Well, it's kind of like the diehards are the ones that go to the meeting after the meeting.
Right.
So it's like, everyone else who really just wants to go home and hang out with their kids or go to sleep or whatever.
They just want to check
They
the
just
box.
want to,
that
yeah,
they went.
exactly. But the
Right.
people who are really there for the real reasons, they want to get more work done.
Right.
And so that's where you
That's
go and
true.
dig deep, and that's why they're so fun.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the cream of the crop.
So I feel like being able to master these undiscussables, what I call like critical conversations, is a huge game changer. And when you're able to do that, it builds trust really fast, that you're able to handle those kind of conversations. So I've been so excited to teach this concept for years now, because for me it has been so huge, being able to have conversations, not just what we're talking about in the meetings, but also even one-on-one with a person that you really would like to have a conversation with, but you're worried that it will be uncomfortable. Or like you were saying, sometimes you guys have had those kinds of conversations. But when you are able to have them and stay cool, oh my gosh, so many things happen. Because I was like you, I would have a conversation and decide I was going to, and then I would get to a certain level. And then I was like, nope, I'm not going there. I would just like turn around and not go there. But what I learned about me is that the thoughts that I was having about negative emotions, and that has to do with my upbringing, the way I was raised, is you don't make waves. If there's something uncomfortable, you definitely don't talk about it in a group setting, and you just put it under the rug, and you put the rug on top of it. That's just the culture of my family. And as a result of that, whenever there was a negative emotion, whenever there was a person that came into the group, maybe by marriage or some other way, and they started to like say, hey, the emperor has no clothes, everyone would be like, oh, run away,
Shush, put it right on the carpet.
Exactly. And a couple of years ago, my husband and my brother-in-law, who were both married into the family, had a very heated conversation about politics, of course. And you should have seen the rest of my family. They flew. They ran for the corners of the house. They were like, oh, and I was in the other room doing puzzles with my sisters and my mom. And my sister was like, they shouldn't be doing that. That's so disrespectful. Dad's getting so uncomfortable. They shouldn't be having this. She just was just saying all this stuff, and I was just like, I didn't say anything because it was her husband and my husband. So I was letting it go, but it was so interesting. I wish I would have been able to somehow videotape. It's videotaped in my head what happened. At the time we were hosting a foreign exchange student, our first, we did two. And he was really into politics, and he was very, just loved it. He literally came into the kitchen where they were talking, and he just sat there.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was like eating it up. He
Pull the
loved
chair.
it. The rest of our family was like, oh, poor Eduardo. But no, he was loving it. And so I have learned so much about myself. The fact that being around negative emotion is not going to kill you. I thought it would. So for so long, that's how I went around. If there's a negative emotion, even possible over there, I'm not going to do that. So as I began to delve into this topic of having these critical conversations, that was a key belief for me to rearrange, is that being in a place where there's negative conversations or emotions is okay. And that's one of the things I learned from Jody Moore. She's like, the worst thing that can happen to a person is a negative emotion. I mean, that's taking it to an extreme, but I knew what she was saying because for me that was true. It's like, it's just a negative emotion. We'll talk in a minute about feeling those negative emotions, being willing to. So we talked about some steps that we're gonna cover right now. If you guys haven't already turned to this page with the little superhero girl there, navigating critical conversations. So if you find yourself in a situation where you need to have a critical conversation, the first thing you want to do is identify what's happening. One of my favorite questions, really of all times, is what's going on here? What is happening? You notice something, there's some kind of information or circumstance that presents itself. The first thing you say, what's happening? You know?
And usually it's how it's making you feel about yourself. You guys probably already all know this, but yeah,
A lot of times
anytime
it
a
is.
critical conversation, you're thinking,
What
what does
message
this
am I
say
getting?
about me?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's making
Like,
me look stupid. I
all
feel
the time.
embarrassed. I feel
Mhm.
negative
That's
emotion.
interesting.
It's like a big mirror in front of you, right?
Yes.
Okay, so step number one, that. Number two, I love sit with it quietly. Again, with everything. Sit quietly with it and just, it's a sorting out process. It's letting your brain go, listening to what the brain's saying, and like writing all that down is super helpful too. I would say, even though we didn't write that down, to write it down, I would say that's very helpful. To write down the dialogue that's in your head so you can sort it out and see what's there. And a lot of times you'll have other people's voices in your head telling you things, and that's where you need to be able to say, oh, wait a minute, that's someone else's voice. Let me pull that over to the side.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, of course.
Okay,
Please do.
another thing that I've learned recently from a friend that's been a huge game changer, because I took her out to lunch and I was like, okay, I can't just let this issue go. Like, it's killing me. I'm trying to just be like, no, I'm gonna just let it go, let it go, let it go. Okay, not working. So she was teaching me, and again, you guys probably all know this, it was a huge revelation to me, like, strong emotions come from the limbic part of our brains, which is the old part of our brains, and basically it just floods your brains with chemicals.
Yeah.
And so she's like, you can't reason with those
When you've gone
emotions
limbic.
when you've gone limbic.
Yep.
Yeah. And so she's like, she said, we just call it, you just wait for the floodwaters to recede. And so that has helped me so much, because I would beat myself up. How come I can't let this go? How come I'm having the fantasy conversation? How come I can sit here, but in my brain, I'm like, and then I'm going to say, and then she's going to say, and then I'm going to say, you know, it's like, no, I'm just floating in limbic, and it's like this
Yep.
sewer.
It's just chemistry. It's chemistry.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I just gotta wait. And so now I just give myself like usually a day and a half. But I mean, you can't always control how long it takes
Sometimes
for the
you do.
floodwaters to recede.
Well, sometimes you can't wait that long to have the conversation.
It's true.
Yeah,
But
that's tricky.
recognizing
But if you
that you're
can-
in limbic
Exactly.
helps.
You might not be using the reasoning part of your brain.
Yeah, that's totally true. The prefrontal cortex is the part you want to
Yeah.
access.
I have a visual about that I teach. It's like, this is like your whole brain working in the prefrontal cortex, but when it's something under here is triggered, this goes offline. And so this is what you're working with. So that's why sitting with it is so beneficial, because once your body feels safe, because then you go to fight or flight or freeze. So then you're working and like trying,
Yeah.
and you're thinking, why can't I just think rationally? Well, this is offline to keep you safe.
Yeah.
It's serving its purpose.
Yeah, it's doing what it needs to do.
But if you show your body we're safe right now, then your brain can come back online and all work
Re-engage.
together.
This
But-
is good stuff. I'm glad we're recording all
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I know.
Good
seriously.
stuff. All right, so number 3, clarify your intentions. This is always important. Again, these are steps for everything pretty much. Consider why you want to have a conversation. If you identify that there's something that needs to be said, why does it need to be said? What do you want to have happen? Like what's the place that you're coming from? You have to get clear on that first. Because if you're not clear on it, and I am really good, so as I've been learning how to do this, I've been experimenting. I'm like, oh, here's my chance. I'm gonna practice this. And I have failed so many times. And a lot of times it's that step. For a long time, I was just trying really hard to honor how I felt, because I wasn't. A lot of times, because of my upbringing, and I'm not throwing everybody on the bus, because we're all in the same boat, all of my family. We learned it from that person, who learned it from that person, back. But I don't care about that. But it's just where we are now. So I would think to myself, okay, I just totally went offline.
Oh, this is the step where of your intentions.
Yeah.
Like you were saying,
Oh, okay,
I
feelings.
need to get this out.
Yes,
I need to
that's
honor
what it
my
was.
feelings.
Yes, I need to honor my feelings. The Q96 hasn't quite gotten there. See what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I totally
Blank.
understand what you're talking
Anyway,
about.
so yeah, my intention, even though I hadn't thought it through or spoken it, was I must honor their feelings. I'm trying to honor my feelings, and I was like blah 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 blah. And then I would look back and go, that did not go well at all. So it's because I hadn't clarified what I wanted to have happen. And not that you can always control, you can't control the other person's reaction, but you can control where you're coming from. Like if your intention is to open communication and be vulnerable with someone you care about, to me, that's an honorable intention. You have to decide, is it worth it? Is it something that's gonna bring light and love and truth to this interaction? For me, I'm like, it's worth it to go through some negative emotion.
So can I make an observation about that? It seems
Yes.
like to me a lot of those types of feelings come up early in the morning time. They're ones that wake you up, right? Early in the morning that you start being like, oh, what about this? Oh, what about this? And then you kind of just like your brain gets going like a, whatever.
That's called
And
early
so-
morning fear and loathing.
Is there like a name for it? Okay, well
What
that's
the heck?
so I
That's
think
crazy.
you have to kind of like you said,
Talk
like
yourself.
let it simmer down,
Yeah, is
because
this
if
really
you just
important?
kind of like, I don't know.
Huh.
You know what works for me sometimes, because I've had insomnia a lot, I've had to learn new practices, and it doesn't always work, but I'm teaching myself, like when I go to bed, that is my safe time. And so when I wake up at 4 and the fear and loathing starts to come up, I'm like, oh, this isn't the time for this. I'm gonna set aside some energy later on in the day where I can loop and I can have the fantasy conversation, but that's not that time. And so that's when the mantras come
I had
in.
fantasy conversations.
Oh,
by the way.
man.
I would be in the shower and I'm gonna say this, and then he's gonna say that, and then I'm gonna say this,
Yeah.
and you're like, wow, that was a lot of energy, and nothing actually happened. And
And the
Yes.
conversation, when you do have the conversation, doesn't usually
It
go
doesn't
the way
go that way.
Never. And then you get more mad because you're like, you're not following the script.
because you know what to say. And you do. Like in the script in my head, this is no, but you didn't say that.
I know.
Where are we now?
My husband actually has out loud those conversations in the shower. And I come in and I'm like, who are you talking to? No, I'm just working this thing out with this other person.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're not here right now. I'm working it
That's
out.
the
He's like,
cue.
stop interrupting me. Oh my gosh. He's awesome. He's funny. He's a
That is
funny
great.
person.
That is great.
Okay, so timing. Timing is everything, right? So once you determine that maybe this needs to happen, pray for the right time. I have done this so many times. Conversations that needed to happen, mostly with a family member, like my spouse, I would pray, please give me the opportunity to say this thing, to bring this topic up that I know might cause a few ripples. And I remember one time I prayed for that. I came home from church. Usually he'll snap the TV on, and I'll go make food or whatever. And instead he just came over and sat on the couch and didn't turn the TV on. I felt like it was Heavenly Father going, it's your turn, go! So I literally went over, sat down, opened my mouth, and the conversation happened. I was like, that works, to pray
Totally.
for the opportunity to have a conversation. So timing. Seek inspiration when choosing your words.
Wait, hold on. Can I talk about a timing story?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, so I want to go back one story, or one bullet point.
Timing or intention?
Yes, the intention. Just with let the conversation be spirit led too, like what you were saying about the conversation you had. I'm gonna say this, and then he's gonna say that. So this is something that Marilyn taught me, and it was basically don't be results oriented. I think we talked about it a little bit last time. I'm gonna say this because it's gonna make him say that, and then I will say this, and then he will say that. And like you're saying, no, it does not usually happen that way. And so if you're going in with the intention of making someone say something or behave a certain way, so your intention has to be, this important thing needs to be said. And that is all my intention is that I am supposed to say this at the right time with the right intention. And everything else that follows that, then I can readdress it and then decide what the next thing needs to be. But if I'm going in there because I'm going to make this person I'm going to make this person do something or make this person say something, and I have a result in mind, that is set up for failure. Absolutely. And she would just tell me that you just say what the Spirit wants you to say at the right time, and then you just let whatever happens because
Chips fall.
you're going to be wrong usually with how they're going to perceive it or whatever, and then you're going to get frustrated and mad and not know what to do because it wasn't according to your plan.
Yeah.
So anyways, so that was huge
It's
for me.
kind of like letting go of
Huge.
expectations,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes you think that they're going to respond a certain way, and then they completely react a different way. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's not at all what I expected.
Yeah.
And sometimes
And then
it
you're
might
thrown
even
off.
be a good surprise, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that
Well,
was
that's,
a lot
yes,
easier
that's
than I
true. It
thought.
can be a good surprise where you're like, oh, I thought that was gonna be way harder than it was, but it wasn't. And then, okay, so timing. This for me was like huge because I had literally been thinking so much about the timing with this. So my daughter, I knew she was dating this, Frankie, and I knew that they were probably sexually active, and anyways, so I kept thinking, I need to tell her about when I got pregnant, because I got pregnant before I got married when I was 19, and I came home from my sophomore year at BYU pregnant, and obviously no one in my family knows this, my children don't know this, this is big time secret, but I just kept thinking, she's 18 and she's probably sexually active, and I just need her to know that I have been there and that things can happen, and anyways, but I just kept feeling like this stupor of thought. I thought about it several times. I was almost gonna say it, and the spirit was and I was like, okay, but I feel like I'm supposed to talk to her about this. And anyways, so one day right before she turned 18, she told me, Mom, I'm going to, just so you know, Mom, I'm gonna get my nose pierced on my birthday. And I was like, oh well, and she's like, I know it's not what you believe in, blah blah blah. And then so she told me that 2 days before her birthday. The day before her birthday, I just woke up and I just had this thought, and I just went to her and I talked to her about it. I'm like, I'm gonna take you to get your nose pierced on your birthday. And she was like, what? She's like, that's awesome. And she grabbed my hands and she's like, I've always wanted to do something like this with you. And it was something that she wanted, that she knew I was kind of hesitant about, but it acknowledged you're not me, and that's okay. And I still love you. And this is your thing. And my sister had a nose piercing, and I thought it was actually kind of cute, and it's not the end of the world. And she was gonna do it anyways. So what the heck? Big deal, I mean, the response I got from her, she's upstairs, but anyways, it was just this. She grabbed my hands, and I was just like, what is happening? So that was kind of fun and unexpected. And then on the way there, the spirit was like, now's the time. So I did. I told her, about when I got pregnant, and I had a miscarriage about a month after. I was probably 6 or 8 weeks when I had a miscarriage, and that was a really horrible experience. I was at the beach by myself, with my parents and my siblings, but not us. And anyways, it was a nightmare. So I told her that whole experience and just kind of let her know, I'm a real person, by the way. I wasn't always like Molly Mormon, just doing everything right and this, la 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 every Sunday. I mean, I was a real person. I understand what it's like to struggle. And then 11 days later, I found out that she was pregnant. And I was like, the first thing I thought of was, she knew that you knew what it's like to be her, and she knows that you know that you were inspired to have that conversation with her. How amazing was it for her, even though she didn't tell me, she had the opportunity to tell me, but that whole time I'm telling her my story, she's sitting next to me, pregnant. How crazy is that? And for 11 days, she knew that I wasn't gonna kill her, and that I know exactly what it's like to be in that situation, and how am I gonna tell my mom, and I'm gonna die, and da da da. And it was just so awesome. And so when I did find out, called Camille, first person I talked to. But then when I talked to her, I was like, Olivia, I just told you about my experience, when we were going to get your nose pierced. Is that crazy? And she's like, yeah, that's crazy. And I'm like, God loves you. He knew, that was him. I've been wanting to talk to you about that for a while. And it wasn't something I was supposed to talk to you about to prevent you from getting pregnant. And she's on the pill already. And it was just but just for her to know that he knows what's going on, and that I know what's going on, and that I can relate, and I don't condemn her. And so when I found out, it was just we'd already kind of had the conversation. Anyways, for me, that was a super good example of how timing is everything.
Absolutely. And if the spirit's leading your timing, you can't go wrong.
Exactly.
So staying in tune there.
He knows every little thing that we don't know.
So seeking inspiration when choosing your words, this is something you want to think about with the intention and everything else. So you don't want to damage any relationships. And then remembering what your boundaries are. If you don't feel safe talking about something, you don't have to. It's all up to you. It's up to you.
Can I interject 2 things really fast?
Yes, please do.
So about the words, I remember once I was talking with a counselor, and there was something I really think I should tell my husband, like just something, a truth. It's true, and he needed to know it. And she was like, I don't think you should tell him that, because that was going to permanently damage your relationship. And I was like, yeah, just because it's true doesn't mean I gotta say it.
Yes.
You know, because he will always remember that. Now, on the other hand, he would say things to me all the time that permanently damaged our relationship. Like, he doesn't have that filter. He just is going to say, he's limbic all the time. He lives in limbic state. And so he would literally say things to me. So for me, this whole thing about critical conversations, I added that last one on to the end, because if I would go into a fight with him, there was very real possibility that I would get like permanent brain damage, permanent soul damage from like psychological abuse is real. Verbal and emotional abuse is real. It's extremely powerful. It's poison, and it gets in you, and it hurts for a very long time. And I remember one time when I got home from Brave Girls Camp, he was saying, how happy are you? Well, what percentage happy are you? And, you know, I was like, I don't know, how happy am I? Like, is there a rule? Like, why are you asking me? I knew he had a weird intention because he was being very agitated about, he wasn't like, are you happy? You know, how happy are you? He's like, how happy are you? What percentage are you? And I was just like, I feel really unsafe, and I would like try to leave, and he was just like chasing me down, wanting to know how happy I was, and I was like, what the heck is going on? And I was trying. I'm like, stop badgering me. Oh, are you gonna go tell your friends that I'm being mean to you and that I'm abusing you or something like that? And it was like, well, you kind of are right at this moment. Like, it's not okay to try to force somebody to tell you something that they don't want to tell you. Like, you don't have to tell them how happy you are if you feel like they're gonna use that as a weapon against you. And it's not like, you don't have to say anything that you don't want to say. You don't ever have to be in a situation that you don't feel safe in. And that was a really good example. And I actually spent the next 3 mornings, I would wake up and go to my mom's house and stay there until he was gone for work, because I was so afraid of just the words and this weird vibe that he was giving off. I mean, it was really unsafe. And so that's a real thing. Like, you do have boundaries. You don't have to ever have a conversation that you don't want to have. If you don't feel safe having it, don't have it.
Boom. End of that. Very true. So for the freedom part, I just love this little girl that Sarah found. When you
Bill,
can master
okay,
these, and when I say master them, of course, you know, it's a process. I've learned a couple of the steps and really bombed a couple of the other steps, but you keep working on it. And it becomes easier, and there is so much freedom that comes with the ability to handle anything that anybody's gonna dish out. That, you know, like, okay, there could be some negative emotions, that's okay. I'll be okay if they express negative emotions because of this conversation. And I'm okay with that. So freedom from thoughts that need to be expressed, contention that needs to be addressed, and the fear of having the conversations.
Okay, that reminds me of something. Can I share really quick?
You bet.
So I heard a TED Talk, which was kind of ironic because I'm having some contention with this committee that I'm planning TEDx Gilbert with. And so one night when I was super frustrated with how a situation was playing out, I like Googled TED Talk, fear of speaking up. And there's this awesome TED Talk that I can,
That's great.
that I can send you the link for. So the takeaway for me is he said, a lot of times with fear of speaking up, like in the workplace and stuff, we attribute it to gender. Like, oh, you know, men have the power and women can't speak up. And he said, it's not so much gender. He said, if you're having a situation where you're afraid to speak your mind, he said, there's a power dynamic going on. And that's what I realized, like, oh yeah, there's these 2 men on the committee. I'm completely disagreeing with how they're handling a tough situation. And the reason why I don't want to say anything is because I'm like, if they don't like what I say, they could kick me off of planning TEDx Gilbert. And I was like, that's okay. And as soon as I realized I could be okay with getting kicked off or quitting or however it all plays out, it just gave me so much power, because I'm like, okay, well then I can say whatever I want, and I'm okay with whatever consequence plays out. And so to me, that was like life-changing, to recognize other situations where it's all about
Ultimately,
power.
Jen, don't you think that
That's
they would
amazing.
respect you more for speaking up? I mean, maybe, I guess it depends.
Not all men.
I don't know. I
But like
can,
they could, right?
they could,
You-
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you're gonna question them.
Because that's what another lady was saying, like,
Yeah.
oh, they always respect when people like come in strong and stuff, and I'm like,
Well,
that's
yeah.
not really my style.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, you guys, this is so fun. I just love teaching you and I love learning from you and I love these discussions and I'm always super glad we're recording this for future generations.
I love the flow chart, that's awesome.
I can't wait to go over that with you. Don't read it yet. We're gonna read it in just a second. Okay, so let's talk about feeling our feelings. Okay, I used to be just like, so growing up I was super shy, really shy, with people in the world. I mean, I loved people and anyways, I wasn't like a recluse or anything, but I was really quiet. But at home I was crazy and stubborn and just singing and talking all the time. As I got older, I started just getting more out there, and just the more out there you get and the more just comfortable you get with people, I don't know, I just feel like the more feelings you're gonna have and the more situations you're gonna have where you're gonna be having to deal with a lot more stuff than when you're kind of just hanging out. Maybe that's why I like to hang out by myself and do things, because you gotta choose the feelings, you gotta choose the situation, you gotta choose the scenario, less volatility. And I also, when I was younger, I mean, I literally grew up, and I shouldn't say this but it's kind of true, like literally like the perfect home. Super calm parents. Like my dad would get mad at every once in a while. I'd come home and the house was really dirty downstairs. He'd be like, get downstairs and clean up. But like I wasn't really afraid very often, and we never had any family tragedies. Like no one ever got in a car accident. No one ever got really sick. I mean, I didn't really have to deal with very much depth of emotion as a child. It was just like the perfect child. We went to church, we read the scriptures, we said prayers. The church wasn't forced down my throat. It was just I had these awesome parents who lived the gospel in really beautiful ways. So when I married this person who grew up in a home that was exactly the opposite of mine, where his parents were really fighting all the time and mean and breaking up and getting back together, and his mom was just completely psychotic and cruel. I mean, I felt a lot of feelings I had never felt before in my entire life that I did not even know existed. And it was a huge struggle, especially at the beginning, because I mean, I didn't know it was abuse. I was just told, this is normal. This is normal. Your parents were weird, and you had no experience in the real world. You lived in a bubble, which I kind of did, but that also didn't mean that it was normal or good or okay either. So I had to like kind of practice and learn how to feel my feelings and not be scared of negative ones, and not think that the negative ones meant I was going to die or I was a bad person. A really hard thing I had to figure out also, and I studied a lot about emotions and feelings these last few years, because I felt like I'd never be able to get out of my relationship unless I could stay mad long enough to get out, because I was just really good at coping. And I had practiced coping since the day I got married, so it was just like, I got so good at coping, I was afraid I would never feel the feelings I needed to feel long enough to make the decisions I needed to make and follow through. And lots of things got me there, but one was that it's okay to feel angry. I mean, when your husband's yelling at you and telling you you're crazy or stupid or bad, that's gonna make you angry. And guess what? It should make you feel angry. Like, that's normal, it's good. And you can sit with it. Your anger is trying to tell you something. And so that was really awesome.
Think about Christ and the money changers. You don't really think about Christ
Yeah.
being angry, but like he was angry in that
It was
situation,
wrong.
right?
Wrong
And
is wrong is wrong.
Yeah, it's okay to feel that.
And every once in a while, God would let me see what he thought about my husband and about my situation. And he would, like, when I saw, like, let me see him through your eyes. Okay, he's really bad. And I'm really angry at him right now. And what he's doing is not okay. And then I'd be like, wow, I should be more mad, because I didn't value myself. I didn't understand that those things were really wrong. And the more I learned about my value, the more they didn't really feel wrong again. Like they did at the beginning when I still knew who I was, but then the brainwashing happened. And anyways, so feeling your feelings is so important. And I had lots of numbing, like my eating disorder. A lot of that was like, oh, my problem is my eating disorder. It's not really the marriage stuff. It's really that I have this eating disorder. But then you heal that and you're like, no, it's still the problem. It's still the problem. And so a lot of times to deal with all these feelings, you just numb them. And a lot of people use drugs or alcohol or sex or whatever it is. I use painting and Audible, but whatever it is. Just kidding. That just came to my mind right then. Sex equals, no, I actually had a lot of sex with my husband too, and that would be one way I would feel my feelings. I would just let myself enjoy that one aspect of my life. But when you numb your sadness and that anger and all that stuff, you also numb the happiness and the joy. And I realized this, like my friends, we would go to like this stupid school, like little thing at this elementary school where you have popcorn and there's music, and my girlfriends are all dancing out on the floor and having a good time, and I just didn't feel like being that happy. And I might have felt that happy deep down inside, but I didn't ever feel like letting it out. I was like afraid to feel happy and to feel joy. And I think it was like, I was afraid the contrast. Like I knew something bad was gonna be happening soon. Why get all happy and ramped up when probably tomorrow it's gonna all come crashing down. And I was literally so exhausted from the ups and the downs that I would just rather everything stay down so the variation isn't going very big. And I would literally keep myself, I remember even like stopping myself from laughing at something that I thought was funny because I didn't want to feel that many emotions. I was feeling so much down here, I was tapped out. Like I didn't have enough range and it was just too much energy. And that was really real. So anyways, most people, and I always thought this was just me, and there actually are personality disorders and types where, like actually borderline personality disorder, one of the aspects of that is they cannot handle negative feelings and they want to get rid of them fast. And sometimes I'm like, do I have that disorder? Because I hate feeling bad. Well, guess what? No one likes feeling bad. That's why we call it bad, right? So one day when I was on a walk, so now let's go talk about our flow chart. So I was on a walk with my dogs, and literally this conversation happened in my head. And so I drew it out as a flow chart, and I sent it to Camille, and we like died laughing. We were like, we have to teach this in our
I'm like, you gotta
class.
say that. That's gem.
It was a total gem. I'm like, this is money, and I cannot find it. I took a picture of it. I don't know where it is, but it's in my head. So I recreated it yesterday. So I'm walking on, and I'm like, okay, why do I feel, I just have this like pit in my stomach. And I'm like, why do I have this pit in my stomach? I hate this feeling. I want to get rid of it. Okay, am I hungry? Because lots of times, and I found out, and this is probably kind of when I found this out, like when I'm hungry, it actually feels like anxious. Like I'm, some people say hangry, right? I'm not an angry person. I don't get mad that often. Like you can really be a jerk to me and I'm just gonna be like, I choose to be happy. I like being happy. I don't want to be sad. I'm sick of being sad. So I choose happy. But when I'm hungry, I feel anxious. And it's just because my body needs food. Literally, I'll eat and I'll feel that satisfaction, and then I'm like, oh, there wasn't anything wrong at all. I was just hungry. So am I hungry? Yes, eat. Am I hungry? No. Then you go to, am I tired? Okay, often the same kind of thing. Like I might just feel bad because I was up till 3 a.m. working on this exact workbook right here, you know?
One thing about the tired thing is I love the Jody Moore podcast where she talks about being tired, and she recognizes, she's like, sometimes you're just gonna feel tired and it feels terrible, but it's just an emotion. You can get past it. It's not gonna kill you. It's not.
I have been learning that.
I love that because
Totally.
you just want to take a nap, but sometimes you just can't take naps.
Exactly.
You know?
And you have to learn,
push
yeah.
through it.
Oh, so many, well, one thing I'll say to myself is I can sleep when I'm dead. And that's a great one. But sometimes I will get this anxiety around, oh my gosh, I think I need 8 hours of sleep, and when I don't get them, then the next day I'm like trying to look for them. How am I gonna catch up? How am I gonna catch up? The next day I'm like, how am I gonna catch up? How am I gonna catch up? And after a while I'm like, since I moved here, I don't have dark curtains in my bedroom. I actually don't have any curtains, and I need to get some because my poor neighbors. But I don't, like I'm just waking up earlier and I'm not sleeping as long. And guess what? I'm fine. And I'm not, because I was kind of oversleeping because I was depressed because I was in this horrible situation. And anyways, sometimes you just don't need as much sleep as you think you're gonna need. Like I just thought I had to have a certain number. And also, I used to look at the number on the clock, and if I got up before 7, it was like, it's gonna be a bad day because I got up at 5. Guess what? 5 is a number. It's just a number. Big deal. You got up at 5. You're gonna be fine. It's just a number. Okay, next one. Okay, so if you figured out, yes, you're tired, no. Am I in a fight with my husband? Yes, don't worry, he's wrong. Move on. That's literally what I thought. I was like, you're fighting with your husband? You're probably in the right. Don't worry about it. Just like, don't spend any more energy on it. Just move on. That was my coping thing.
Your superpower.
Like, I'm not gonna fix him, right? Okay, so no. Okay, is one of my kids struggling? Okay, so if it's yes, you go down here. You are a great mom. You've taught them well. The rest is up to them. And if I had enough room, I would have also put in, they're in the Lord's hands. You know, so many of the times when, I mean, that's probably 90% of the time when you're feeling bad, it's, for me anyways, it's like, oh, that's right. Olivia's struggling with this, or Wesner's struggling with this, or my daughter is struggling with this. And it's just like, ugh, it just weighs on you. But you know what? Sometimes you just have to tell yourself, you know what? You did a good job. You did the best you can. You weren't perfect because you were struggling with your own things, but the Lord has them, and they have their own agency. That's another one you could just put in. They have their own agency. Period. Right.
Well, and one thing I love, I learned recently from a psychologist. He said worry makes you feel like you're doing something productive.
And it's
But
so
you're
not
really
true.
not.
You're really not. No one
It's
knows you're
addicting.
worrying.
It's addicting, but you're not.
I worked so hard today on all that worry.
Yeah.
Oh my heavens. Okay. So then if the answer is no, am I procrastinating something? And that's another one that is so often in there. It's like that nagging. Like, okay, I have to prepare this lesson, or I have this huge thing for girls' camp that I need to paint or stamp or punch or whatever. And so if the answer is yes, just pick one little thing and just make one tiny bit of progress in that thing. Like, you don't have to finish the whole project. You don't even have to do a lot, but just check one thing so you can have that little, that feeling of satisfaction of just getting that little thing done. And then if no, then is my spiritual bucket low? And then if yes, obviously there are so many things we can do, but just the basics: pray, read your scriptures, listen to music, and if all LDS people are listening to this, it would be go to the temple. But just rejuvenate yourself. So many times you can just cross so many things off your list. And then this could go on and on too. Like this flow chart, you could be like, okay, well maybe that's also no, maybe I do have my spiritual bucket filled. Well, what about exercise? When was the last time you rode a bike or got out in the sunshine? And there could be a million other questions, but we didn't obviously want this to be the endless flow
Where
chart.
to go for peace?
Where
Where
you-
to go?
Exactly.
Go where
Yes.
the peace is.
Go where the peace
Go where
is.
the peace is.
Exactly, you can find that. Okay, so next time, if you guys want to, we're not going to give it to you as homework, but if you want to make your own flow chart for whatever it is you're struggling with, the flow chart thing is so fun because you do it in your head all the time. That's what I realized since then. I realized you do it all the time. You're like, okay, is it this? No, is it this? It's really fun. So if you have the time during the week, you can do that. It'd be fun. Okay, so then let's talk about feeling these feelings. So when you do get a feeling, and Camille, feel free to jump in here because this is some of your stuff too. Lots of times it's really good to name it. Like, okay, I feel bad up here because that's like really general. But am I anxious about something? Am I depressed? What is it exactly that I'm feeling? And that is super huge. You could be like, oh, okay, once I name the emotion, anger, okay, then you can take the next steps from there. But each emotion is going to have different flow charts coming from that emotion. If it's stress, it's one thing. If it's anger, it's another thing. So name it and then visualize it. And this when Camille said this idea, it totally reminded me of when I was in labor. And I was having my youngest, Olivia, and my sister Mary Jane was there, and she's a labor and delivery nurse, which is like an awesome thing to have a sister as when you're having a baby. And I didn't get my epidural. I never had an epidural with her. And so she was talking me through some of my contractions, and it was amazing. And she was just like, what color is the pain? I'm like, oh, it's red, And so I'm just picturing my whole uterus as red. And then she just talked it down, and the red would move down my legs and down my knees and down my calves and my heels and my feet, and it would shoot out my toes, and it would go up into my shoulders. And as she's talking, what is happening? Well, the contraction is dissipating, but I'm also concentrating on the rest of me. So I just love when Camille said visualize it. You can visualize the anger as a certain color, and then where is it? And you can also visualize it dissipating. You can even take a jar. This is something that Marilyn taught me. And that I had a container, I had this jar, and I would put the anger in it. And, once it's done its job, I don't need to carry it around anymore. And so I would literally, the anger would be red, and I would just be whoosh, put it in this jar, put the lid on it, give it to the Savior, or, put it somewhere else. And it's like, I don't need to carry it around, somebody else can carry it for me. It's there, it has a message, and that message was probably really important, but I don't have to let it weigh me down. And one of the books that I read about anger when I was trying to deal with all the anger and stuff, what is it trying to tell me? And it's telling you, you're being abused. This is not okay. Do something about it. Someone has to do something about it, and it's going to be you. You're the only one who can get yourself out of the situation. Camille, what are your thoughts on these things?
Oh, yeah, they're great. I love, some of these things I have learned from Jody Moore. She's really big on the thought model, the thoughts create the feelings. And she said sometimes you can sort of short circuit the feeling by realizing this feeling is caused by sentences in my brain. A thought that I'm thinking is causing this chemical dump in my body, which is causing this feeling. So perhaps I could think a different thought and change the feeling. I love the power in doing that and considering your thought as a contributor to your feeling. And then knowing that, I think it says on the flow chart, or that, yeah. Let yourself feel it for a while. Let it just, it is a chemical that's going through your body. Let it to pass through until it subsides, however long it takes. And then, think it and move on.
Yeah, give it permission to leave.
Sometimes when I'm limbic, I'll picture myself like in a little hot tub of my own emotions. I'm like, yeah, it's blue and chunky and just disgusting.
Yeah, it's curdled.
And I'm like, I'm ready to just like pull the plug on the drain and let it go and
Oh, man.
take a shower. Anyway,
I
just
wish
having,
I was
like,
writing notes right now, you guys. Did you get that one down? That's
visual-
awesome.
yeah.
Like you're gonna
Just like,
yeah, and
you're
then-
choosing to sit in this.
Right,
If you're
and
gonna
you
keep
can
thinking those thoughts.
open the drain. Like open the drain, let it go. Let it go in the sewer where it belongs, right?
Yep.
It does. You don't have to soak in it all the time.
Yeah. Another thing I'll do when I want to get rid of like thoughts or feelings is I'll imagine like a pool skimmer or just any sort of like fish net. You probably have some really good visuals too. And just like sometimes when I'm at night and I'm limbic and I can't fall asleep, I'm just like, okay, we're just gonna like
Skim
scoop
those little
these
thoughts off the top.
emotions or like okay, I'm getting the emotions out of my feet right now. I'm getting, yeah, just any visualization.
Awesome.
for it.
I wish
It's
I had
not
talked to you when I
rocket
was in
science.
my mode of not being able to sleep for like a month. Because that stuff
the
would
worst.
really help. Yeah, I was the worst. Because
Yeah.
your brain just will not let go. Unclench.
Oh,
Love it. Thank you. Yeah, and give it permission to lead and thank it because the emotion probably was trying to tell you something, and it's a messenger and that's awesome. I mean, there's a reason that those emotions are there. It's really, it's real. It's real, but it's not real. Like it's real, it had a purpose, but then again, the purpose is, it's lived its life's purpose and now it can move on. So, I want to tell you guys about my first dance party. Have you guys ever watched Grey's Anatomy when they do like their little dance parties and stuff?
Yeah,
That cracks me up. So, but I've never been unshy enough to be really good at dancing. To be a dancer. I used to go dance when I was like trying to like meet boys in college and go dance at Ivy Tower or whatever at the Palace and the Ivy Tower. I found a ticket stub to the Palace in one of my boxes the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, the Palace. So when I was meeting boys, yeah, like it was kind of worth, dancing and stuff to kind of like lure them over to you. But since then, since I've caught my husband, I was like, I really had no need for dancing. But the night that I went to my lawyer's office and I had my first meeting with the lawyer, it was massive step in my life. Massive. It cannot be underestimated. And I got home and I went up to my little room, which by the way, I had decorated really cute with all these positive things when I started moving into my guest room. Anyways, and I had just turned on some of my positive Blanca music, which we should turn on that right now. Do you want to start our music?
Sure, yeah.
We turned on the first Blanca one that I told you about, my favorite one. Not a different drum. The Ain't Backing Down. Yeah.
Okay.
So the song Blanca, who is just like the
I
best.
love her.
Her song Ain't Backing Down. I ain't backing down. I was like, I'm not backing down. I went and talked to a lawyer. I went and talked to a lawyer. I am so brave. And I prayed like crazy and I had my angels with me and it was super scary, but I did it. And I just like literally could not stop dancing. And then I danced and that picture of Jesus and then a song came on and like a slightly quieter one from her came on and it's all about how the Savior is stronger than anybody else. He who is in me is stronger than he who is in the world. And it's like literally he and he, and it was like, so I took my picture of Jesus and we were dancing and it was so awesome. And then I had another spontaneous dance party when I moved into this house. And it was really fun because I danced from my bedroom and I just happened to dance into the baby's room upstairs and the closets are mirrors. So I had a dance party with myself and I watched myself have a dance party. That is like a whole next level of dance party. Because I was like looking at myself in the eye and I was like, you got this, girl. And I was just like watching myself and I was like, hey, I got some moves. Like, I'm not that bad. I can maybe catch another man. No, I just, but it was so fun. And I just completely 100% let loose. And I let myself feel all of my feelings. And it was amazing. And so those two dance parties were just massive. And I was like, and people do this when they need to feel their feelings. Like they'll go run and they'll go jog. Like my brother has done that before. He actually like destroyed his thighs one time because he ran steps. He was like, he just broken up with his girlfriend. He ran the steps at a stadium for like an hour and he like trashed his legs, like permanently damaged his legs. But he had to get out. It had to get out, you know. And so sometimes even just going on a walk or getting out in the sun will help you feel those feelings. But you have to let yourself feel the joy. Okay, let's turn that up, girl.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't want to
No.
overpower your singing.
Just get it out of the, you know, just like fade me into the music. Oh man. Hold on, we're gonna chorus soon. Blanca ain't backing down. Blanca has like 5 super powerful songs. She's like it's actually not that. Give Shazam.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, girls, so let's get up. Let's dance. We're gonna have a dance party right now.
I need your fan on that. I'm gonna sweat. I'm ready. Take off my sweater. I saw your glasses come off. I'm like, oh.
We're taking clothes
I'm
off.
like Sarah. I might got power moves.
Oh, she has more minutes.
It's gonna get faster, right?
Yeah. Well, we also can change the song. There's other ones on there. It's got different drums. Change it to different drums.
You're making a playlist of all our songs.
Oh, can you share that with us?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
This is more dancing.
That's Blanca. I haven't even heard of Blanca. I haven't either.
Excited,
You
yeah.
know what it is? It's the shift of energy. Like we'll do something in our class and it's like all like brainy and then right like on a dance party.
Yes.
Oh, the shift of energy.
And everybody's looking at
I know they're like, but by the end, they're like,
So let's break them all, go off the wall, be in the world but not of it. Against the grain, let's look the same. We're rocking now, we're loving. March to the beat of a different drum. We do the left, right, left,
You're gonna send us this, right?
and we'll keep on
Play this for me,
moving.
sing me too. I love it.
Afraid to stand up. March to the beat of a different drum. We do the left, right, left, do our own rhythm. Copy of the status quo. Cut from the cloth of the
Okay, do another one.
original. Gotta get your
There we go. Oh yeah.
All right, who's this?
Fine. This is the best running song ever.
Do you remember this song? Bring me down.
Love it.